My fiancée and I went diving to see sharks. But she had a plan to keep me from ever resurfacing. My fiancée, Amy, was always seeking excitement. We were just 2 months away from our grand wedding this year. I decided to take her on an adventurous waterside trip. We always wanted to do something crazy, so we decided to go for it. As we crossed the shallows, sweat formed on my forehead. I was nervous. I made one last video call to my mother, showing her that we were safe. "Are you crazy?" she asked. "This is foolish behavior. No matter how many precautions you take, how can you guarantee nothing will go wrong?" I assured her that I had read many genuine reviews about shark cage diving, and it was safe. I made this decision not on a whim. Amy even suggested we draft a will, just in case. But I wouldn't entertain those thoughts, as living in fear wasn't an option. "Don't worry, Mom, I'll call you in about an hour," I said, but the signal was fading. There was no turning back. She tried to persuade me again, but the call was cut off. Amy was getting nervous, about to talk me out of it. The boat suddenly stopped. The captain said we had arrived. Looking at the calm water outside, I saw some cute carnivorous fish swimming around. The captain instructed us to put on our gear and prepared the bait to attract the sharks. We changed in the dressing room, not taking it too seriously. When I put on the diving suit and the oxygen tank, I saw Amy trembling. She seemed nervous. The diving suit was tight and secure to protect us in case of accidents. The captain told us we'd have 35 minutes to play with the sharks in the water. When we returned to the deck, they were conducting the final safety check on the cage. Amy squeezed my hand, and we kissed each other, putting on helmets to ensure the oxygen tanks worked properly. This experience would be unforgettable, or so we thought. But it soon turned into a nightmare. As we entered the cage, we were told to move to the left side. As the driver closed the gate safely, a feeling of unease settled in. There was a small hole in the cage where we could use a shallow water camera to take pictures, but it seemed larger than I thought, and my arm could fit through. I felt a chill, and as the water touched me, I shivered. Adrenaline began pumping through me. The sea was so calm and serene. I didn't see any animals at first. I even thought that without the sharks, we'd have wasted this trip. But as we submerged ourselves, the boat's foghorn and the splash of bait entered my ears. Slowly, as the fish guts came into view, the water turned red. Amy and I stood shoulder to shoulder, watching the now murky waters. Suddenly, we saw the outlines of animals approaching from the edge of the murky water. As expected, the sharks arrived. I reminded myself that I'd be safe as long as we followed the protocol. But my reassurance was fading. Fear was taking over. Dozens of sharks started swimming toward the cage. Most were tiger sharks, but there were larger ones too. Amy nudged me to take photos. Though I was scared, it was too late to back out. I began to feel more nervous, especially when several sharks swam past me, their fierce eyes locking onto me. And then it happened. Something that changed my life forever. Amy pushed me towards the open hole, and my arm got caught in the cage. I felt a sharp pain like a blade. Blood dripped from a tear in my clothes. I turned to see Amy's eyes burning with intensity, freezing me with terror. As she pressed me against the cage, my arm trapped, I saw her other hand holding a small folding knife. Blood mixed with the water as the sharks grew agitated. One shark latched onto my arm and began pulling. I felt my bones shatter as it dragged me toward the edge. Amy continued to exert pressure, keeping me near the cage's edge. The sharks surrounded my fiancée, and I watched in horror as they tore her limb from limb. As consciousness waned, I realized the emergency. The people on the boat were panicking, screaming for the woman. "Where is she?" they yelled. Bleeding heavily, I passed out. I woke up in a hospital bed about 2 hours later. My arm had been amputated. They told me that Amy had survived, but her injuries were far worse than mine. I immediately called my mother, and as I recounted the story, tears filled her eyes. Amy had tried to kill me, but I couldn't fathom why. My mother had no answers either. Days later, I left the hospital. A woman had changed my life forever. the one I thought I'd spend my life with. However, before I left, I went to visit her. Doctors said she was in a coma, but conscious enough to hear my voice. I stood there, next to her, and whispered, "I survived. I'm alive." In a tone tinged with triumph, I added, "You didn't win." Seeing her fiery eyes through the haze of her injuries terrified me anew. Her attempt to kill me would forever haunt me more than the loss of my arm.